everyone, welcome in. I'm Jared with the Grace Company.
And I'm Angelique.
All right, and who else do we have here?
Hi, I'm Faith from Premier Stitching.
Awesome, so we're so glad to see everyone here. Go ahead, and if you're joining us, go ahead and let us know where you're joining from while everyone's starting to gather in right now, because I can only see we got a few people coming in. Hopefully we'll get a few more starting to trickle in. So today what we're going to be going over is an introduction to robotics and kind of giving you an idea of this is how you go from doing robotics or just quilting in general, right, on your own machine, free motion quilting, or just sewing it on your own thing to doing it on a full robotic setup. There's a few different robotic systems out there. This is a new one that we came out that we're going to focus on. So, all right, and Faith, you are out there in Texas, right?
Yes, I am.
Right, you're in Texas, and I know we've been doing business together for a long time now. And kind of tell me a little bit more about what you do at Premier, because I know you wear a lot of hats. We were talking about that the other day.
Yes, I do. I kind of manage all the online stuff here at Premier. Premier is the online side to Sovac City, so we do have a brick and mortar store also. So I do kind of do a lot over here.
Yeah, they keep you busy over there. I know
They
that's
do,
for sure.
yes.
So yeah, we're all, especially this time of year. We're
Oh,
so glad
yes.
everyone's back inside, back sewing again. So just throughout the video, just so everyone knows, this is the website on the bottom now. We got that constantly going across the bottom of the screen. There's also the special pricing that you can call in for. We're going to go over a little bit of the special pricing, but that's where you're going to take a look at their website for that. So some of that really good holiday sales, and I think the prices are definitely, I don't know if they're going up at the first of the year, but they're definitely, the sale's going to be off.
Yeah.
We never raise our prices because of tariffs like some other companies did, so the prices are going to be going up. So just remember, give them a call. Maybe you'll talk to Tammy. Maybe you'll talk to Dion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really answer the phone, right? Faith?
No.
Yeah, I mean, you got too many other things to do.
do.
Yeah, you got a lot of things to do. Yeah. So yeah, give them a call because there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to go over, and I'm sure you're going to have some more questions. So make sure to type in the comments what questions that you have, because we'll bring up the questions to ask once we kind of gone over a few things here. So, all right. Well. Thanks, Faith. I just wanted to bring you on for a second before we really got into the meat of the automation. Because do you quilt? Okay, so I'm gonna ask you this. I'm gonna throw you off guard. Okay, Faith. Do you quilt? Because I've never done my own. But have you done your own?
I am new to quilting. I have done 3 baby quilts.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe you're gonna be. Because I know you know a little bit about this, but maybe watching this too, you'd be like, maybe I can get one done.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would do a quilt without automation. So,
yeah.
And I know a lot of people are just like, what is automation? How does that work? Oh gosh, that's like so expensive. So, all right, thanks, Faith. We're gonna get into showing people, and Angelique, our educator here, is gonna do that. So thanks, Faith.
Right.
We'll bring you back in a second.
All right, thank you.
More.
We'll see you soon.
We'll see ya. So, Angelique, tell me a little bit about what you do at Grace as well, because I know you're our educator. You do digital education. You're in the spring fling or like digital events, and also winter market. So tell me a little bit about what you do as well.
So technically, I develop content
Okay.
for our YouTube channel.
Awesome.
Anything from product support to inspiration, projects, how to free motion quilt, you name it. I got that hat on too.
Yeah, you got it. You got a lot of different things that you're doing. Absolutely, yeah. So awesome. And how long has it been here that you've been working now?
Oh, year and a little bit more than a half.
I feel like it feels like
It'll
it's
be
been
very
longer
close
than
to
that, but
2 years in the spring.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So we're getting up to the 2 years.
Yeah.
I've been working here. I think I had like 6 or almost 7 years now. So
Wow.
yeah, a long time. So
And you still haven't quilted
I
your own
know.
quilt?
Okay, I have.
I'm gonna fix this.
I have a project that I have. I think maybe it's a little bit out of my leagues, but I've got the fabric for it. So I think maybe I need to try another one that's like not so intense. But
Right.
I've
Start
got
with
the
something
setup at my
simple.
house too. So I really don't have any excuse. But my introduction to quilting was with the free motion machines. But a lot of people right now, right, we've all got domestic machines, and man, the first time I tried out doing the free motion on the domestic machines, I think it was 2 or 3 years into working here, And I was just so used to, because I'm selling the long arms and I'm interacting with the long arms. I didn't really know the domestic side of it. So they're like, all right, Jared, come back here and give this a try, just so you know what it's like. And I tried it, and I was like, wow, I'm getting sore already just from doing this.
So you're talking about more like push quilting.
Like
okay.
push quilting, and not like the piecing. I've really not done a lot of piecing, but a lot of people know how to piece, and then they get it done right, and you kind of have like your pile of UFOs.
Right.
And because how
I have
do you
a friend
get
with
it
a
quilted?
basket. She's been making them, and now she's just storing them right back in there.
So she's got a whole entire basket full. Wow. So yeah, I just wanted to. We want to show people, give them an idea of how you can get that basket of UFOs done without it being a huge headache. Also on your wallet and on your back. Just kind of on your spirit and your whole enjoyment of getting things done, because it can be stressful, especially this time of year, right? Because we know we got a lot of projects, a lot of gifts going on, so we want to be able to get that stuff done.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten your stuff to the long armor by now, chances are good you can't even turn it in to get it done by Christmas.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, they're so busy this time of year. That's another reason to figure out how to do it yourself too. But okay, so what we have here, right? This is the QMXFD, kind of a long name, but you just have to call it QMX, Quilmotion for Domestic. So tell me a little bit about it, Angelique, and tell me your experience too. I was asking you a little bit. Maybe tell me some of how you got into quilting, and then your first experience with long arm quilting versus pushing around. And we can also talk a little bit, you wanted to talk about free motion, so we can help people understand the kind of different tiers. They're pushing it around, moving around, and then it moves it around for you.
Right. So I started really getting into quilting when I got here in Utah. Before that, I mean, I crocheted, I did a little bit of sewing. I could, with my domestic machine, I didn't even know it was called push quilting or free motion quilting, kind of trace around things that were already there, because like I did like a Disney panel kind of thing or whatever. That was my level. I could not do binding. I didn't even, what is binding? Like I didn't know any of that. And then I met somebody here who did this stuff, and I'm like, I've always wanted to try. And so I started piecing some stuff together, and I started hearing like how expensive.
Oh, yeah.
It was to take it to a long arm, and I am like, I do not want to do that. My husband's gonna be like, no go.
Yeah, and it's something that you keep paying for every new project is another one.
And I don't mean this to anybody else but me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty logical, direct. I have a science background. So when I looked up the definition of quilting is not the piecing by definition.
Right.
It's sewing the layers together.
Oh, right,
and so I didn't feel like I could call myself a quilter if I wasn't doing the whole thing.
That makes sense. That's
so
fair.
that's kind of where I got started with it. And I, like many people, I'm online, I'm trying a few things. I'm like, I'd like to do that, and I get the ad for the original cutie.
Yeah.
And that was my gateway drug.
Really? That's how we.
You
saw it. So you started out with a cutie.
I started with the original cutie. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I didn't know what they meant by throat length, and so the next thing I knew, I had to buy a machine that would work, and then I bought the Sure Stitch Elite because the machine that I bought was too manual, and I didn't have a button. And I went through the whole. So if you want to know what to do, to get into it, like the best way, come talk to me, because I will go through all the mistakes that I made.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do right now. So, okay, so let's go for the first step, right? So before you quilted, so did you like originally you piece one and you're like, oh shoot, now
what
I
do
gotta
I do with this?
now
Or
what
I would do
with
some
this
straight
top,
line
right?
quilting, so
Right.
you have your walking foot, or you draw some lines and you're really just sewing.
Right.
Sewing straight lines, maybe going across them on the other side. That was pretty much my level.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, I got everything
You got
set up.
the breeze, or
I
the
started
original
following
cutie.
people online. Yes, the original cutie. I started following people online. I want to try that. I want to do that. Then before I was kind of drawing out my own panographs on there, trying, the powders. I mean, I tried everything until I got it, and then I was like, you know what? I want something bigger. And that's when I went with the 15 Pro, when you guys were bringing on the 16, because it was on sale and I didn't know.
Yeah.
So and then it came with the light bar, so I got the light bar, and then before you know it, I heard about a job here and I loved the products and I was looking for a change in career, and by trade, I'm actually a teacher. I'm teaching science curriculum, and I got lucky. I got to now do my hobby and teach it and
awesome.
learn
That's a
more
great
and
setup.
get better. And so automation was something I was introduced to here.
Okay, awesome. So you got into automation. So I didn't realize that your first thing was you had a cutie frame. That's awesome.
Isn't that funny?
And that's what we got right here. So this is the first thing that you started out with.
Yeah.
Would you think that's a good starting spot for other people as well?
I think it's definitely a good starting place if you're like, I want to do this, I want to try with something that I have, I want enough space that I'm not having to, stop and start constantly and really learn the basics. And I'll tell you, even like getting to play with everything that we have here, I still have a hoop frame at home. I have our upper echelon of hoop frame, but I still have a hoop frame at home because there's just things that I learned that I can do and tricks that I can do on a hoop frame that I can't do in a rolling frame.
Right.
So it's just really interesting, and it's very much affected like my style of quilting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So the hoop frame is still a key part of kind of specific things that you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So this is what you got started with, and before then we didn't have this automation as an option.
No.
Where that would have been nice. Because you had to do it all manual, right?
Yeah.
So let's show them the first.
But if I started with automation, I wouldn't be working here because I wouldn't know how to do all the things I know.
Yeah. So let's get started on like the free motion aspect, right? Because everyone knows, the pushing, stitching the ditch, tying, everyone knows that kind of thing. So let's take it up to the next step that some people know about or you've seen. So, and let's also explain what a hoop frame is, right? Because a lot of people don't know what they say hoop frame. When you first saw that, were you like, oh, I get what that is?
You had good pictures, so I could figure that out. And I had like a small embroidery hoop. Right. And I think at that time I'd already gotten like an embroidery machine. Right. So I knew what the concept of a hoop was, but this is a hoop. Right? So I basically have these stationary areas, all the way around that are going to support the quilt sandwich. I just took this one off for a minute because before I get into the free motion, just to kind of save us some time later, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little setup with the automation. So when you first get yours at home, this is something that you're going to want to do, and it's going to prompt you to do that. Or if you've turned it off and you come back for the first time, you're going to need to home your device. So we're just going to go into settings for now just to make it a little bit easier. And there's a thing called quilting. And you'll see places like rehoming your device, and so I can click reset for that. It's going to bring me to this screen. And anytime I home the device, what I'm doing is I'm telling the system where my top left corner is for the needle of my machine. That's all you're doing. It's basically, like a coordinate system. This is where we're starting.
You're saying, hey, this is the home, this is where this is starting from, this is the 0.
And so I'm going to just click that, and when I'm done, I hit next. And then I can also do the frame space. Now, frame space is something you really only have to do once, and that is, anytime you have a new machine. You can kind of, you'll have to reset, because if you were like, I got a bigger one, then you've got to do that. But other than that, we're good to go. So I'm just going to do the reset for that. And what you're basically telling it is the throat space that you have plus the left and the right.
Okay. Yeah, so you're saying, because that's, and you can see on there, right? That's the little cursor of where your machine is.
Here is my frame. And what does this picture show? And what do you see on my frame?
It's your frame.
Nothing, right? There's no clamps, no quilt, nothing, because we want the full amount of space. So I just hit start recording, and I'm just going to, along the back here, it stitches me a line, if you will, or traces me this red line. I got my forward space. Right now all the way back to the left and back forward, and I hit stop recording, and now I've told the computer, the robotics here, what space that I have for that.
That makes a lot of sense, right?
Then we're going to just load our hoop frame like we normally do. Now before I do that, because I do want to cover that free motion first, there's a couple of levers here. We have these belts. So you have your horizontal and your vertical, and there's just a couple places where you can just open that up and it's no longer engaged. And so this is going to allow me to do those free motions. When I want to use the automation, when I want the robotics to do the work for me, then I'm going to engage those. But since we want to show you a little free motion first, let's go ahead and do that.
And that just lets this move around really smooth versus with the
Exactly.
belts, you know, it's going through the electronic motor, so there's a lot more, it's a little bit more stiff there.
So we're just going to load wherever it is we want to quilt. You'll want to grab that side for me.
Absolutely. And this is the panel that actually comes with it,
This
right?
is the panel that comes with it, so you can get some practice in. And we'll just pull it your way a little bit more. That's good. And if you'll hand me one of the back clamps. The great thing about this is it's a tabletop frame, so you don't have to have a dedicated space unless you want to. You don't even have to have a dedicated machine, but you can make this dedicated, so it can grow with you.
Yeah, and that's the thing I always hear from people too, is they come up and they're just like, they didn't know this is an option, you know? So that's why I'm hoping that there's a few people here that hasn't seen this as an option, or maybe we're curious about what would this look like as an option, and we're educating you a little bit about, you know, what this option looks like for you.
So if you'll notice that when I load the frame, I always start with this back rail. This is called our take-up rail. And that's just from traditional systems where you have the rolling rail that takes it up for you. You're just manually taking this up for you. And then we have our front rail here. This is what we're going to add clamps to. We want to smooth all those layers out. And I like to give it just a little bit of a twist. I have found that it is very difficult to over tighten on the Cutie Breeze compared to the original Cutie. So it's, I think, a little bit more user friendly in that. I don't need one over here because I don't have that, but he's getting a side one over there.
Just my side
just
one
gives
down.
us a little bit more. And now I'm just pretty much ready to quilt. We can just roll this up for now because we're going to have a much bigger quilt on here later. We don't want this to drag, so I've just kind of manually rolled this up. It does have those, if you'll hand me one of these, to help hold that up. I just hadn't put them on yet because I always take them off when I store it. And they just slide right in here. And one of the little tricks that I do is I actually use this as a gauge to how far I can go. So I'll slide this down. And then I'm like, okay, this is as far as I know I can go comfortably before I flatten out. And I do the same thing on the other side. That's just a little trick that I do to help me visualize that space.
Now, when you first started, what machine did you have that you were using?
Well, I had a little brother, but I put it on and it had no throat space.
So it was like a very small little
Yes,
machine.
because again, I didn't get that part of it. So I ended up getting a Jazz 2 because that 12-inch lured me into that, but you know, I had trouble controlling it because it doesn't have its own speed control or anything.
That makes sense, yeah.
You have to do with your foot, and my foot was getting tired, and that's when I got the Sure Stitch Elite, and that's just changed everything for me.
Yeah, and that's one thing I just bring up too, because people are confused. They're like, oh, so I got to get that specific machine. And it's like, no, it's not this specific one. This is any machine that's got like an 8-inch to 9-inch throat space, right? And you were talking about your other one was just too small.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, it just went over because you can see you're going to lose just a little bit of space here, right? Because you have the bar, and then of course the size of your roll, that is going to change how much space that you have. And what I had just had like a little loop basically.
Oh yeah, it's like a very small.
I can literally do a
it was
straight
really
line. That's all I could
going
do.
anywhere.
So yeah, that 12. When I had the 12-inch, I got about 9 inches of good quilting space, especially as you know your quilts roll up and whatnot. So what we call free motion quilting at Grace is really machine quilting. Right. But we call it free motion or free motion machine quilting because you're manually moving the machine, right? So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn my computer back on because it's taking a nap. All right, and I'm just gonna drop my needle. This one has a self-cutter, so I have just the tiniest little bit of bob in there. I don't have to worry about that. I'm gonna hold down the button to get it started, and then I'm just gonna stitch my design. So if I want to do loops, now I've got this set for the automation, so I'm having to go a little bit slower than I would, but I would adjust the speed of my machine so that I'm getting the stitch size and everything that I want. Right? And so I'm doing all that work. And it's fun, don't get me wrong.
No, and I love
fun.
doing free motion too. Yeah, I think it's really fun to do the free motion, and especially compared to I mean, have you ever done one trying to like do free motion pushing it around before?
Yes.
Because like that's where I said I tried that out, and 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like my shoulders were hurting.
Yeah.
And like I'm a young guy, and I was like, I don't know how people are doing this. Like
Yeah,
it wears you out.
It's holding the weight for you. That's
Right.
another really nice thing about this. It's holding your layers
Exactly,
together,
'cause
it's holding
it's
the
heavy.
weight for you, and it feels more like drawing. So I think that like for some people, it's just a little bit more natural feeling.
Right.
Because you know, like I said, I did some push quilting, but it was mostly just kind of shadowing around other things. Going back to push quilting, I had to reteach myself how to do the same shapes that I can do on here. If I want something really intricate, you know, really loopy, I have to go with this, right? And if I want circles, if I want perfection, that's when I have to use the automation.
Yep.
There's just some things I cannot do
And I
even with a
know
ruler.
there's a lot of different types of people out there too, and make sure, just a reminder, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, go ahead and type, because we'll see them and we'll answer them. But there's a lot of people that are like, I want to quilt, but they're paralyzed by like, this has to be perfect.
Yes.
And now, and I totally get that, because it does take a lot of practice to do their free motion quilting, and it's a lot of time, a lot of like, you know, tracing, drawing to make sure you're getting it, and plus you're doing this on top of your, you know, your top that you spend
hours.
you spent so long doing, so that's like a lot of pressure, and that's where you get this whole buildup of quilt, because you're like, well, I've got to go do this now, and I don't want to mess this up, or you're doing it for someone else or something like that. I mean, like, this is a gift. This is something that you want to look nice. That's something that we're going to go to now, right? We did the basic free motion, and now we'll show the automation.
So I've got to re-engage these. So those little things that you saw me loosen, I'm putting back on there, and now you can kind of see, got to give it a little bit more muscle because it's engaged. Right? And you know, this isn't just for like people who are like, I need to be perfect.
Right.
You know, as we get older, or maybe we've had some injuries, or we've built up some arthritis, so it just gets harder sometimes to continue to do that free motion quilting. And this allows you to still be able to express your creativity without maybe the physical part that maybe you can't do anymore, you're not comfortable doing for long hours anymore. And you know, kind of talking about that, you can be creative with automation.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to show that on the other quilt that I have over here. This is just our little practice panel.
And that's nice, because you get some time to practice, and also there's a way to like set the stitch length, and that's kind of what you can do and set up on this, right?
Yeah, automation is just another tool to express yourself, and you are only limited by what you can think of. I mean, it really is that. It just makes it easier and a different way of fun to do it.
So one thing that I've heard is, you know, another thing that maybe we can explain to people is pantographs, right? Because that's one word I heard tossed around, and people hear pantograph, like, what's a pantograph? So can you explain that a little bit? Maybe we can show them by doing one.
Okay.
But that's one, don't people ask you, like, what's a pantograph? They're
And
kind
you
of
know,
a little
the
bit
funny
confused
thing
about what
is that, you know, when you're learning automation, pantographs are probably the hardest thing to learn.
Yeah.
But it's the first thing everybody wants to do. And, you know, you'd asked me earlier about, you know, my experience with automation and where I first started with that. And I started on a Halloween quilt.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I started with blocks because, again, how I started, I had smaller spaces to work with, and so I tend to see things in those smaller segments. And learning how to place blocks and get blocks to line up made it so much easier for me when I was ready to do that first pantograph.
That makes sense.
And that, of course, was on our QCT6 that we have. But this, because you're doing one row at a time, it's like placing a block. It's that easy.
And so would you recommend people start out by doing a quilt by just doing blocks, or how would you do it? If someone was doing their first one, this is their first one that they're going to do with their automation, would you be like, you should do one that's all blocks?
I think it depends on your quilt.
Okay.
Definitely. Like now, if you're trying to do like a consistent edge-to-edge design, then you might want to kind of start with, okay, let me just do something with small blocks first that I can get used to lining that up, maybe a few at a time kind of a thing, and then and you can do that. I used a pantograph as a block earlier today.
There you go.
So you can kind of do that to sort of play, how do I get this lined up? And as you get more confident, more comfortable with how you get your quilt on the frame and getting everything. And I don't know if you noticed, but yeah, ruler in my pocket.
Oh yeah. I was like, I don't know where mine is too. I have one of those little little flappy kind of small rulers. I feel like it's super useful for this too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just do a quick little pantograph, and I didn't cut that very well, so I also have handy dandy scissors that I keep in my little tool belt, because this is a tool. So
do you want to show them in here or the project?
We can do a quick one here, just to kind of show what a pantograph is,
Right.
and then we can get more into how can you be creative with block placement and pantographs on an actual quilt.
Yeah,
Does that
so we'll
sound
get
good?
that there. Yeah, that sounds good, because people are always asking, because I know you said they want to see it on a real project, so just know we've got one here.
We got
that
a
we're
real
gonna show it
project
on.
that I've been slowly working on, specifically with QMX.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
So I've definitely been learning it along with you. One of the great things also about QMX Foundations for Domestics is that it is designed for that new quilter to automation. Right?
That's perfect.
Because it has got so many things in here to help you get started. With the quilter's checklist, it's just going to give you those reminders like put in that new needle, clean your machine, baste your quilt really well, all of those things. Did you drop your feed, dogs? I had to have a note. I had a sticky note on my Jazz 2, is your foot down? Because if you don't put your foot down, your tension is a disaster, right? So
I've done that a lot of
closing
times.
the belt clamps that I just did, all of that stuff, and it's right there. And you can kind of check these off as you go to kind of remind you that you did those free ones.
Honestly.
I'm just going to hit start quilting, and it's going to be like, are you sure? But I did my checklist mentally.
Yeah. you already got that. We already, yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to go to simple panto. Now, I'm getting a little blind with these glasses, so if you're seeing things cut off on the screen, it's because I made the text bigger so I can see it on the tablet.
Yeah.
It's not the program, it's blind girl here having some difficulty seeing stuff.
Yeah, you said you needed to maybe go in for some new glasses.
Yeah, I got
We were both talking about that. I think it's time.
So first thing I want to do, so it's really this simple. You're picking, you're placing, and you're sewing. 3 steps, right? You can do some edits, you can do some changes to that once you kind of pick something, but 3 basic things. What were they? Do you remember?
Pick, place, and sew.
Pick, place, and sew. Okay, so I'm going to go into the design library. Now, the design library, do you know how many they get to start with?
It comes with 10, and then you can also add 10 more via
Because
the
we
store.
have an entire design store on graceframe.com.
That's built in this, and you can see under there's a button to go to store. And another question that people are, and you're probably wondering right now is, do you have to buy it from our store? Don't have to. You can upload any design that is I can't remember what's it called.
There's several file
SVQ.
types, and it can transcode it for you.
Yeah,
But there's a list of file types that it will accept. So.
Yeah, and any Urban Elements or any sort of website that you can go find edge-to-edge designs, it can upload those.
And block designs, not embroidery, because that's
different.
a totally different beast. Okay, so I have some saved and favorites here. Now, it's not actually saved on here, so you do need to be connected to an internet source, to your Wi-Fi at home, because everything is stored on our website for you, which means you'll never run out of room. So you can get tons and tons and tons of designs, and that's what makes it fun. And so this is what I'm going to be using later. So I'm going to select this Hearts Panto. I put it in my favorites, so you don't have to watch me scroll for an hour and a half to find all because I have so many.
You have a lot of designs.
All right, so I here have picked my design. I can change my mind at this stage if I'm like, maybe I don't want this one.
I've changed my mind right now.
But I don't feel like changing my mind, so I'm just going to click that next button, and now I get to make some decisions. Now, one of the great features that they have on here is based on it. Remember, we did that whole square, this is my quilt space.
Right.
It has already pre-calculated for me how far this design would go based on the height of the preset height for this design if I was starting all the way in the left. So I already know exactly how much space this would take. But I'm not starting on the left, am I?
No.
No, I'm going to be starting more over here. And I'm just going to kind of bring it so we can look at it next to this one. And I like to, this is where, some of the tips and tricks, so we're going to see a little bit more when I get to my actual quilt. But if I want to really get this in here, I'm going to measure my my space, right? My width
Right.
of my space. So this is 5 inches, which means that I could have up to 5 inches if I want to fill this up. But I also know that when I sew, I'm a little wonky, right? I don't always have the
Yep, yep, it's not
perfectly
always
straight
exactly
seams.
straight.
So I'll probably set this at about like 4 1/4, maybe 4 1/2, so I have a 1/4 of an inch on both sides. So it's not actually going to touch those borders for me. And so you'll see how it changed here. Now, one of the nice new features that have happened since the update is, do you see these numbers?
Yeah, they're
Okay,
great.
so this
right?
tells me how much? 4 1/2, right? This is my starting point. That green one and the red one is on the same line. That starting point is 2.9 inches from the top of my pattern. So if I want to get this lined up, I'll just move this out of my way.
And usually, you know, your rows would be the same. I guess this next one, these are like the same height, right?
Yeah, so like I said, I did mine as 4 1/2 because I'm going to cut a 1/4 for my top and bottom, so I can put those little markings there. All right, so that, because, you know, I don't like to do math in my head when it's fractions.
Yeah, me either.
So 2.983, right? So this is where I'm going to want to line up my starting point.
Okay,
Right?
gotcha. Yeah.
So it has taken the math out of it, and this is where I want it to at least end, right? So my start and my stop, exactly where that line is. So that is one of the things that came in the update that I just absolutely love.
Right, so we're taking that top number on the screen, right, the 2.98, and then we're measuring that down from the top of the block.
Right.
And then you're marking your point on the left and the right of, because that's going to be in the next section, right? Because that's going
Right.
to be for the place.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of editing that we did. That was part of the pick part. All right, now I'm ready to place. So all I
So
need
you
to
got
do.
the left and the right, the start and the end.
Now this foot has little markings on it, so I'm using the markings to line up where my needle's going to go. So that is my first position.
And that's where you mark with your pen, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then you press start on the
So
screen.
I press the start. Okay.
If it's going to behave.
Yeah, I wonder we were sitting here a little
Oh,
bit
wait.
too long.
Wait, I don't think you rehomed it after we put the belts back on.
Oh, you're right, I didn't. So it's confused. That was my fault.
Yeah, so if you go from the free motion back into this mode, you got to rehome it because you loosened
It doesn't
up.
know. It has no
doesn't
idea where you're
know,
at.
Hey, this is the starting position.
It knew
again.
the space that I had, but it didn't know where I was at. Thanks for reminding me, because you know in my head I had done it. So
I guess you didn't do the checklist.
I
I'm
did
just
do the
kidding.
checklist, but I did something in between. He's picking on me.
Yeah. So we're just going to that original menu that we did at the beginning. It's in the help.
It's in the settings
The settings. Yeah,
Quilting.
settings, quilting,
and reset the homing.
home device. Now it knows where we're at again.
See, we all make mistakes.
I've done that a few times now, honestly. So
All right, let's get that back. And I'm going to let you tighten that back up for me while I
right.
get back where we were. All right, so pantograph, InDesign library, my favorites, my heart's panto. All right, my next, my size I said 4 1/2. All right, so again, I'm just dropping this foot because it helps me see a little bit better. Those are things that are going to be very specific to your machine. You know, those little idiosyncrasies, your hopping foot that you're going to use, those are things that you're going to have to figure out that work best for you. But this is the way that this one is. So there we go. Now it's thinking. And I'm going to take it over to my end point over here. And so I actually would want this to go out further because it's going to truncate, right? So if you look, it's because this design has 4 hearts it has to complete, right? And if it can't complete those 4 hearts, it truncates to complete that design. But there's little tricks that you can do to make that work. So I'm actually going to pull this out a little bit further until I get it to recognize that there is more space there. And then I'm just going to have to carefully watch it or do some
Yeah, when it
unpicking.
gets
It
to
really
the
just kind
edge,
of
you'll
depends.
stop
Since this is just a practice panel, we're
Yeah.
just going to run it,
Yeah.
okay? And then I can hit next and click to move to start, and then the magic happens. Little reminders, pull up your needle so you don't drag it and break it. Right, look at that. No hands, Mom. Okay. Pull up your bobbin if that's something you prefer to do. Again, this one has a self-cutter, so there's such a tiny little thread there.
Yeah,
it's not even worth the effort for me. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. It's going to remind me to move to start just in case I did pull up the bobbin and move my machine.
When you
Because
move
we
it
want
off
it to
a little
start
bit,
exactly.
it needs to go right in the beginning.
Yeah. So I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to get the sew stitch countdown. So I like to drop my needle. I don't know why, it's just a habit. I'm going to hit this. Now this machine has a little bit of a delay, so this is something you also need to practice with when you do your stitch test. And there's instructions in here on how to do that stitch test. But basically this one, I've got to start it real close to the 3 so it can warm itself up. Other ones, you're literally starting it like a nanosecond before it starts moving. So
and
that's part of why we do the practice panels.
Something to explain as well, right, is that this is not connected to the machine in any way, right? So
Correct.
Angelique's the one starting. She's pressing start on that countdown that you saw there. So now it's just moving on its own, stitching out this design that we chose.
How fun is this? And it's so much fun to watch, which brings up another point. You have to watch it.
Yeah.
Because it's not talking to your machine, it's talking to the frame.
Did it just go back a little bit too far?
Yeah, we went back a little bit too far. And so if I wasn't paying attention and I walked out of the room, I could have messed up my quilt, right? Yeah. So that's when you want to do that. So we would, repair tools and continue to stitch. Obviously, I wasn't in the best place for where I had placed this. That was on me. But like I said, this was just kind of a practice to give you an idea of things you might run into, right? So that you know how to kind of deal with that.
So usually you'd want to do a little bit further away.
Yeah, I'd want to be a little
back.
bit further away than I intended to be. Yeah, I definitely was a little closer there.
But you can see we did a little bit of a heart
look
on
how
there.
cute that heart is, and look how good the stitching is.
Yeah.
So part of that is getting that stitch test, right? The stitch test is what's going to help you calibrate the speed of your sewing machine to the speed that the automation is moving.
So how would you do a stitch test? Can you show them that real quick?
Yeah, I sure can.
So this is what you'd want to do the first time that you're using this, right? To kind of calibrate how big is my stitch going to be, because like what I just mentioned, it's not actually connected to the machine. It's just moving the plate that the machine is on. It's moving the machine. So it's going to move it at that constant speed. And then but depending on your machine, you can adjust the speed of your machine up and down to get the different stitch length that you're looking for.
Right, so we're going to need to rethread. What are some other things you can tell them while I'm rethreading, since I did break my thread in the process of moving that?
Some other things, well, I guess I'll just repeat a few things that are the questions that I get that we already answered, just to make sure that everyone understands them. So just to be clear, this works with any machine, right? Not connected. This is just moving this around as long as you have 8 inches of throat space. And what's throat space again? So that's the area that's in between here. So that's how far forward I can bring my machine, how far back. We talked about how Angelique, she started out with a really tiny machine, which you need one that's a little bit bigger than that. So you need one that's 8 inches, and then you can at least free motion with it. But then you can add automation specifically to this frame. And another question that I get to that you can see here, we kind of got a big quilt on here. So people will be like, well, what size of quilt can I do with something that's this size? Well, you can do any size quilt, because it's like you were saying, Angelique, it's like embroidery. So that's how you can, if you're doing quilting of the hoop, you can do any size. If you start out with a small spot and then you just unclamp it, move it to the next section. It's the same thing with this, but it's kind of like on a larger scale, really big hoop versus the small hoop as well. So another thing too that I was just thinking is, I can't remember what it was I was just thinking. I guess I'll answer another question that I get a lot of time is like, what does this come with? And that's, the frame itself comes with these clamps and everything that you need for it to work, these handles, everything like that, that's all part of it. And you use your own machine. And people are like, well, do I need to use special thread or anything like that? And it's like, no, you don't need to use special thread, because it's like you're using your own machine. Instead of moving your machine and pushing the fabric around, the machine is moving around. So there's nothing that really changes except for, your feed docks need to be lowered, and usually some sort of free motion foot is what you're going to need.
The darning foot, each one's a little bit different for each brand of machine, so definitely get one that's compatible with yours.
Right. So, yep, you can use any machine as long as you take those things into consideration there. Oh, I like how you have some tweezers. That's always handy.
Oh, I always have tools.
Yeah. You got your whole little.
It's because I got nails. I can't get a hold of anything.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it should be ready to go. For the stitch test, you'd go to quilting and you would go to line. And there is a place on the panel that says stitch test, but like I said, this is just a practice panel. And I'm simply going to set my line, which is very similar to setting the pantograph. So I'm going to click the start and a stop or end
just
area.
2 points, and you can see how long it is.
Tells me how long that line's going to be, which can be very handy later, when you're like, how big is my block and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and click next. Now, the only difference between a line and either doing a block or a pantograph is you're not picking a design, because your design is the line. So it's just place and sew.
You're just doing a line. Right.
Same thing, going to move it to start.
Right, and this is just a set. This is how we want the stitch to look when we're doing other designs.
So I would recommend it, like this one's already been set. So I'm skipping the first part, which is you would run this without any thread the first time. That way you could adjust your speed that's for your machine, or figure out where, if it's a foot pedal control, that you're going to be using to get the stitches that you want. So you're going to adjust that. And I always say start in the middle, because you can always work up or work down.
That's a good
but if you
place to
start
start,
too high, it might just be too crazy, depending on how powerful your machine is. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move to start again, because I don't know if I touched it. We're going to hit next. Same thing, start, so countdown. Right, and so this is where I can do adjustments, right? So the second time I do it is with the thread, so I can make little adjustments till I get the look that I want. And then basically, I'm done. Once I've got it set, I'm good to go.
All right, you can see here too, I think the stitch on here is maybe a little bit smaller than I would do. I don't really know how you do it, but yeah, that's where you can adjust basically, because everyone has a preference too. If you want it to look like, these ones on here are very tight stitches.
I have these smaller because we're doing a lot of curves.
Okay.
So when you have designs and I do tend to like curvy designs, especially when I'm using automation, because I can get nice smooth curves. So a closer stitch is going to give you that smoother curve.
Yeah, it looks and make it look more continuous, right?
Yeah. But you could bring it back a little bit. I did a little slight adjustment just for you, Jared. So we'll see.
Well, thank you.
All right, so we're going to take this one off.
Yep, and we'll just do a little thing on the other one real quick.
So we can actually show you on, not that this isn't a real quilt, but a real quilt.
Right. So I asked you a question earlier before we started. I was kind of wondering, how do you know, because this is a question I get too, is, how do you know where to start on your quilts if you're doing a hoop? Because really you could start anywhere, right? You don't have to start at the top.
You technically can start anywhere, absolutely. We're going to quilt this zone here, so let's bring this up a little bit. All right, that should be, if we clip right on this line, we should have plenty of room. If you're doing, just kind of a traditional pieced quilt, maybe some simple blocks or something like that, your best choice is probably left to right.
Okay.
Right? Or just kind of as a new quilter, left to right. I have a very bad habit of not knowing exactly what I want my borders to look like, but having an idea for my other parts of my design.
Okay.
So a lot of times I'll skip the border first, which could be problematic if I'm not careful. And so that means I've got to baste really, really well. And on a hoop style like this, I would want to do some basting off the frame, because I want, especially if it's a big quilt, I want to baste like the whole top area so that I don't get that shifting as I'm doing the other quilting, so I can come back for that. And that's pretty much true if you want to start in the middle. I mean, if you have, something like a panel, or one of those star quilts where it's like just one design that's kind of working out from the center, you can definitely work from the center. But that basting step is what is going to be so important. And that's probably where I would do some spray basting, or like really tight pin basting, something where I can be very confident that the areas that I'm working in are not going to shift, right? So. But you technically can pretty much start anywhere. It's just kind of a logical flow. If you start in the center,
the top left to
then
to the right, kind of like you're reading or whatever
right.
you're used to. Yeah, I think that's how I've done the ones because I have quilted one. I haven't pieced one, but I have quilted about 3 quilts. I did one Quilted Valor quilt for somebody on the machine that I have at home, and 2 other ones for other people, and that's the way that always made sense to me, is right, the top left to the right.
Again, don't forget that little bit of a twist. Can I have one of the end? Oops, I lost mine. All right, so it doesn't take long at all. We had plenty of things to kind of talk about while we were doing that. It's pretty much ready to go. And I am going to do a short little pantograph on this one here. So I'm going back to quilt. I'm picking my pantograph. I have one in my favorites. There's a lot of flowers on this part, so I really like this Flower Power panto that we have here. And again, I would probably measure, because I want at least 2 rows, and I'm probably going to plan to nest these. And if I recall, these blocks are probably close to 9, and my ruler's only 8. So this is going to start in the center, which means I just need to find the centers. Basically, where all these going to go.
And right now you're just going to do those 2 blocks, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to sew as far as it'll let me. I'm not doing anything. I decided I didn't want to do anything special for this sashing. So, and again, that's just my creative choice. Doesn't have to be.
I mean, I guess it's a quilt. You can do whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah. All right, so this is my halfway point so that I can split my blocks in half. So from there, I need to figure out the halfway point for my placement, right? Because since I want to get 2 rows. All right, so that puts me here.
So you're splitting the halfway of the block into another
half, exactly. Okay. So let's see, that's going to be about here. And that's what I'm going to mark. We're kind of doing this quickly, so it's probably off a little bit. But we're getting a little tight on time, so.
Yeah, I just want to do a quick little, we can just do 1 row.
Yeah. And I can decide my size, so we'll do 3 1/4. Set my start position. Let this stitch out to about there. Said I'm kind of eyeballing this. Notice how it's kind of going up at an angle, and that's okay because my quilt's going up a little bit at an angle. So it's going to fix that for me. Going to hit my next, going to move to start. And we're just going to let this stitch out, and then you can start talking about sales, because I know everybody's going to want this.
Yeah, and we'll kind of watch it as it's going out as well. So, yeah, right now, I mean, it's the holiday season, and I know we were just talking, I don't know, we were talking on camera or off camera, we were talking about how, if you haven't already sent it off to the long armor, I mean, by now it's kind of like, this is the most busy time of year, so you're kind of past the time to be able to get your quilt done. But for those holiday gifts, there's still time to get one for yourself, but it is coming up close to the and when we're going to be able to ship to get it out to you. So make sure to give a call now if you're looking to do it. I also said the prices are going to be going up, that it's going to be happening at some point, so that's another time to be doing it now. And please do it through Premier Stitching too. So they're a really great company to work with, and they've been there. They have a lot of history. Like I said, they've got, and go ahead and bring Faith back on too, if you're ready, Faith.
Hi,
We're talking about
Faith.
Premier
Welcome
Stitching.
back.
Hi.
Welcome back. Yeah, so you guys have been along around time. Like, do you know how many years it was that Mark has been around with Premier, and your dad used to do the
Yes.
online part as well, right?
Almost 40 years.
40 years, so that's a
Yeah.
lot of, and we were
Wow.
just celebrating 40 years too, so
Yeah,
there you go,
we just
40
celebrated our
years.
40 years.
And that's where you want to go through, right? Somewhere that's got a lot of experience and a lot of history there, and they're really great people to work with. I mean, they're from Texas, so what can you say? They're nice people. So yeah, there's their phone number right there that you're going to want to give them a call at. Faith has those prices on the website, but I will have them bring up real quick, if you can, Bryant, the pricing for this. It's in the banners under Premier Stitching. So yeah, under at the bottom there, very bottom, Premier Stitching. So there is the Quilt Motion that we've been using right now. Go ahead and pull that up. So this is the Quilt Motion X and the Cutie Breeze frame, usually $3,000. You know, call now, you can get a $2,000 price. This price will be good for a week, but like I said, I think at this point, you got to order pretty quick before, and, you know, on Amazon, they've got like the countdown timer.
left.
Yeah, well, it's not like that, but I just mean like so they can ship there. Like, you never know however it's going to ship, and they've got free shipping right now too. So make sure to order it so you can get there in time. And like I said, I'll just tell a quick story that I tell people sometimes too. I had a lady, I think her name was Mandy. I can't remember for sure, but she didn't get this specific model, but she was on the edge about, she had a whole ton of quilt UFOs, and she was like, Jarek, I don't really know, because like I've been sending out to my long armor, and she's like, I'm kind of a little bit tired of paying for that, but I'm not really quite sure. But she bit the bullet. She got a hoop frame because she doesn't have space. That's something I hear all the time, right? The space, the time, the price, those are all the big main issues. People always tell me, Jarek, I don't got the space. We always joke about like adding an extension to their house. Like, what if it was like an RV? You know, you could just press a button, a little extra box like pops off from some extra quilting space. I think it's usually a little bit cheaper just to get a frame or something that fits your space, and you don't have to break the bank. You know, usually you're talking about a long arm, you're spending $3,000, and that's the price that this usually is. But instead of that, you can spend $2,000 and have it do it for you. Usually we're talking automation, we're talking about a $10,000 system. So this is something that's significantly less expensive. And back to this lady, Mandy, she eventually got it, and this was in Michigan, and she comes back every year now. She comes back, and I say, hey, and that's why I really should remember her name. I'm pretty sure it's either that or Kathy or something like that. But she'll come show me, these are the projects that I've been doing, and she's like, I'm just so glad that you convinced me to get it. And I'm like, you're welcome. Like, because she's like, I've actually gotten all this stuff down now. So yeah, get something for yourself to be able to get it completed. There's a lot of people that have gotten it, and like I said before, over 1,500 people have already gotten this. And another story I wanted to tell really quick too, Faith and Angelique, was I had another partner of ours who sells our product, and she was really hesitant on the QMXFD because it's new, which rightfully so. Like, this is a new release. But that being said,
we have worked so hard on this.
They worked really hard on it. But she got it, she set it up, and she sent me a picture of it stitching out, I think like 10, 20 minutes later after she set it up. She's like, Jarek, this is like the best design software I've ever used. And I was like, I'm so glad to hear that. Because that's what I tell people.
It is
but until you
very,
get
very
it and
user-friendly.
use it yourself, it's like, I'm not really sure. So you can take it from her. And she's someone that's like very like, I'm not going to sell this unless I know how to use it and I like it. I'm not going to sell it just because you're telling me to sell it, Jarek. I'm like, all right. So I was like, you need to try it out. So she did, and I mean, they've sold so many of them too. So this is a really great product, and plus we've got a whole ton of other stuff on there, and they've got a lot of stuff, not just our brand, on Premier Stitching. So they've got good holiday deals, right, Faith?
Yeah, we do. We got 12
That's
days of Christmas deals. We got all kinds of stuff going on right
Oh,
now.
that's exciting. That's going to be awesome. So yeah, give them a call, learn about that. Now, there's one thing we need to do before we leave here, and that was we did have a pre-registration giveaway for the Quilters combo, and the lady's name is there. If you'll pop it up for us, Bryant, we'll do a little bit of a drum roll. That's right there, Cynthia. Show it, Cynthia.
Yay!
I don't know how to say your last name.
Congratulations.
Said again. I don't know. My last name's Erznosnik, and people do the same thing when they see mine. So I'm so sorry I butchered your last name. Sadigan, it sounds like Sadigan, but I don't think that's how you say it. I don't know. So congratulations, Cynthia. Thanks for signing up in advance. And to everyone that's watching, make sure you register in advance next time to tune in to your chance to win a giveaway prize. We'll reach out to you to go ahead and get that taken care of. But thank you so much, Faith, for your time, and everyone for tuning in and watching, and Angelique for showing us. And I'm sure you're going to have some more questions. So,
And if I can share.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yes, I talked about earlier, I help with some of the content development. We already have some videos online about QMX foundations for domestics to use. We have more coming. We have ones on how to set up your QD and set up the hardware for QMX. We have how to use it, how to troubleshoot some things like stitch repair, all of that. So we are constantly here to support you. So be sure to check out our YouTube so that you can share that too, Faith, with your customers. Like we've got you covered.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's also why you want to go through a dealer as well. I mean, we have our educational content, which is great, but then you have people on the phone here at Grace and people on the phone at Premier Stitching to answer your questions. And like I said, they're super helpful people there. So that's always why you want to go through a dealer. And usually you can always get a better deal too. Some people have this misconception that, the dealer is going to upcharge me for it. It's actually the other way around. I'm like, I actually have a higher price on our website than we're going to have it on our dealer's website, especially for this promotion that we have for Premier. So go ahead and check that promotion out.
I'm
and thanks,
jealous.
Angelique. Yeah. And thank you, Faith. And I hope everyone has a happy holiday season, and we'll see you guys next time, because I'm sure we'll do another event.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Okay.